A big problem in the form of a severe weather outbreak is on tap for much of the lower and middle Mississippi River valleys, including the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. Later this afternoon and evening, that big problem shifts east to the East Coast, and so many folks on the East Coast are going to be waking up to rumbles of thunder tomorrow. We're going to talk about who exactly is going to see what, as well as take a look at the pattern shaping up over the next 5 days with multiple rounds of severe weather. No rest for the weary, folks. We'll have all the details next. We've got severe weather as far as the eye can see, folks. Today kicks off day 2 of our 12 days of severe weather. We probably won't make it to 12, but we're going to give it a run for its money. There's an active pattern underway, and it's bringing system after system into the east. So much of the east is going to experience severe weather over the next couple of days. And then as we get back into the middle of next week, that threat shifts back into the east central portion of the country. We're going to take a look at all of it. This afternoon, we've got a big severe weather threat. And so I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know to keep you prepared so that you understand what the threat type is and when that threat is going to be maximized. We're going to take a look at that. If you don't know the weather, you're in the right place. We'll leave you smarter here. Every time you come into Cold Rain's Weather World, you leave a little bit smarter. And we test your IQ too. So we're going to test your weather IQ today. We're going to start with our IQ question, and this is it. What is the primary cause of wind? Is it rotation of the Earth, changes in humidity, ocean currents, or differences in atmospheric pressure? If you know the answer, write it in the comments. If you don't know it, then I will get it to you at the end of the show. Now, we're going to start this afternoon with our severe weather threat. And that threat, as you can see, extends back from Texas all the way up into the Great Lakes, centered over the Mid-South and Mississippi Valley. And we're looking at a tornado threat, 10% chance of tornadoes within 20 miles of a point, and the black hatched area means that we're looking at a significant tornado threat, EF2s or higher, possibly. 45% wind. So if you're in this pink area, even in the red area, you should prepare for power outages, some downed trees, some objects blown around. We could see winds gusting in excess of 60 or 70 miles per hour. Have your flashlights handy, stay weather aware. And hail is also a threat down from Texas up into Indiana and Illinois. We've got a 30% chance of seeing large hail. The significant hail threat is in existence as well, with potentially 2 inches or greater hail. Tomorrow, the threat shifts east to the eastern seaboard from northern New England down to Louisiana, with the maximum threat from the lower mid-Atlantic down into Alabama, where this enhanced risk exists. Tornadoes are possible. Wind damage is possible, particularly in the southern areas where Cape and instability is higher. And then hail is possible in that area as well. And as we look out into Tuesday, we don't get to take any time off. We've got a threat re-emerging back into the plains. Wednesday, a really big threat exists. This looks very similar to today's severe weather event, where we've got a big trough that's moving into the central part of the country. A storm system more powerful than the one today is going to be generated, and that's going to bring a lot more wind energy. And so this could actually be a bigger threat than what we're looking at today. And then on Thursday, we continue to see that threat exist. So as far as the eye can see, we're under the gun with severe weather. Later this afternoon, so taking a look at today's activity, later this afternoon, we're going to see Cape, fuel for the thunderstorms, instability really pick up across the deep south, the southern states, and roll into the Mississippi River Valley, Tennessee River Valley. Look at this, 3,000 joules of Cape. We're going to see that swing toward the east, and as the sun goes down and the atmosphere cools, that diminishes a bit, as you can see that playing out, but still 900, close to 1,000 joules over here in Tennessee. This is where our tornado threat is going to be maximized. So as we look later on into the evening, probably from Kentucky down here to Alabama, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, into Tennessee, we're going to pay attention, particularly in this quadrant of the circle, for strong supercell activity generating potential tornadoes. So that's our cape as we get on into the overnight period Monday into toward Monday morning. The cape starts to shift east. So that's our instability. What else are we looking at? We're looking at the potential for strong tornadoes, and we can see our significant tornado parameter really kicks into gear later this afternoon. This is 1, 2, 3 o'clock. We get on into 5 o'clock and then into the evening hours. This is the area that I drew a circle around a while ago. We've got values in excess of 3. All you need is 1 to give you the potential for significant tornadoes. And look at this, a big area of 4s and 5s. That doesn't mean that we're going to see a big tornado outbreak, but it means that if we start to see supercells develop, and there's a chance of that, then this is the area of concern for strong tornadoes. So be on alert as we get through the afternoon. Indications are that much of the activity will be in the form of organized bands or a line segment as the cold front comes through. But if we can, and likely will be some spin in some of those storms, so we probably will see some tornado warnings. But if we get any discrete activity later on, then that will potentially make use of the environment and see a few strong tornadoes develop. As we get through the afternoon today, so we're going to roll this forward, look at this afternoon, we start to see activity develop in western Kentucky and to Indiana, and then we see it pick up really in earnest as we get into the evening hours. So we've got a band moving through Kentucky and Tennessee, another band in Arkansas, some activity over Georgia and Alabama, moving into South Carolina. Look at this. This band sweeps through. This looks kind of like a bow echo, so we could see some strong winds with this band. If it were to break apart a little bit, or if we start to see any supercell activity, then we would be on alert. You kind of see this, the model kind of hinting at some of that. So we're going to have to watch as we get into the overnight hours tonight, late evening. This is late evening. We're approaching like 12 o'clock overnight in Tennessee. You can still see that activity there, and we get into Monday morning, and it sort of weakens as it feels the heating of the day. Now, tomorrow, we're looking at a big threat up and down the East Coast here. And so let's go back into our cape here, and we'll get on a better screen so we can see this a little bit better. So our cape is diminished from what we saw Sunday. Today, what you're looking at here is 8 a.m. tomorrow. So we're getting to 8 a.m. tomorrow, and you can see the cape starts to build back up as the heating of the day commences. And particularly in the Carolinas, down here into Georgia, we start to see good values, and we see it creeping in up here in the middle Atlantic too. And so we're going to watch the whole entire East Coast tomorrow for strong thunderstorms. And as we get on into Tuesday, late Monday into Tuesday overnight, Monday night into early Tuesday morning, we're seeing that cape diminishes, the heating of the day wanes. And so our significant tornado parameter abates as the instability abates, and then we get into Monday morning, Monday afternoon. We don't see those insane values over here, but we do see 1s and 2s. So we're going to watch out for potentially strong tornadoes if discrete activity develops. Most likely, we're going to see a line of storms that moves through and strengthens, particularly over here in the eastern Piedmont type sections. This is probably where the biggest threat will exist as the day wears on and we get the cold front to slide east. There is some chance that some prefrontal convection will develop out ahead of that, but we're going to have to see that. That's a mesoscale thing, that a feature that won't be resolved very well until tomorrow. So looking at tonight into tomorrow morning, this is Monday morning, we start to see that line reinvigorate back here over the eastern part of the Appalachians. We'll get on into the day. We see a couple of different line segments develop, so that's very, very possible. And then it coalesces along more of a linear, in sort of a linear fashion as the day goes on. So multiple rounds of thunderstorms are possible up and down the East Coast with high winds and potentially tornadoes as well. Temperatures this afternoon, we're going to go here to our tropical tidbits display, and we can see 70s and 80s across much of the southern tier, stretching all the way into the east. 30s and 40s. We've had a big ice storm up here in the northern Great Lakes. 30s hanging on in the northeast, and 40s across much of the west. We get into Monday, we start to see a little cooler air filtering into the Great Lakes and Midwest behind that storm system. Up and down the East Coast, still 60s and 70s, 80s across the south. And then as we get on into Tuesday, return flow sets us up nicely for a nice day for some parts of the country. We're going to see that severe threat creep back in late in the day. It's going to be capping on the atmosphere, so we're probably looking at it later on in the evening threat here for Tuesday. But warm across the south, chilly across the north. And then if we look at our jet stream, we can just see what's going on today. So we've got these little jet pieces of energy in the jet kind of flowing on. We've got a little trough here. If we put this on out into motion, we can see that kind of play out over the weekend. This is Monday. the rest of the weekend, Monday into Tuesday, we see a little piece of activity here moving through. Still got this big jet poking in the west coast and very, very active pattern. But look what happens when we get into Wednesday. Big trough carves out a big storm system. This is going to be potentially one of those where we get down into the 980s for a low, lots of wind energy, and you can see a larger jet streak here. That's why the Wednesday threat next week is going to be a little bit greater potentially than what we're seeing today. So we'll get into that. Look how the jet stream forms. So we've got this big trough out in the west, cold air here, warm air surging up to the east, and that moving that on out in time, we see that persist. And then eventually that trough is going to shift east. But before it does, it's going to be bringing lots of energy in and lots of moisture in from the Gulf. And so we could see multiple days through the end of next week with severe weather out in the plains and into the east central portion of the country before everything kind of moves east. We get this big ridge building along the west coast as we get on into the weekend, into next week, with a trough in the east, cooler weather, and that will put an end to the severe weather threat for a time. But we still have a very active pattern, so don't expect anything to lock in for too long. And then looking at our storm systems kind of go through the course of the week. This is next Wednesday. We start to see storms break out in the plains as a big low pressure system comes in. Look at this activity up and down the Tennessee Valley, mid-Mississippi River Valley. And that just for days, that just sits in the same spot. So we've got a sort of a quasi-stationary front here and some waves moving along that Thursday into Friday, Saturday next week. Expect some changes in the location of this, but I'm just showing it to you so you understand that's a very active pattern in place. And so we've got lots and lots of activity. And finally, all of that moves out. We get replaced with colder conditions in the east, warmer out west, more stable. And then another system kind of moves through as we get late into the pattern. Looking at our average temperatures of the next 5 days, warm in the east, chillier than normal out west. Watch what happens out in time. So as we get on out into the day 8 through 12 time frame, much of the central and eastern part of the country is starting to cool down. So that, again, that's transient, though. That'll last for a few days. And then our precipitation footprint looks the same as it has for the past month. More precipitation in the east, particularly here in the Mississippi River Valley, precipitation along the west coast being squeezed out as storm systems run into the higher elevations and squeeze that out. So that's what we're looking for over the next short and longer term. And let's now find out how smart you are with your weather IQ question of the day. I bet most of you got this right. Smart audience is what we have here at Cold Rain's Weather World. So what is the primary cause of wind? Rotation of the earth, changes in humidity, ocean currents, or differences in atmospheric pressure? And the answer is, of course, differences in atmospheric pressure. Okay, so that's how that works. And you can test that out if you take a balloon and you don't tie it up or anything, just blow it up and then let the air out easy, it kind of comes out, easy. If you were to squeeze it, higher pressure, it's going to burst out. So changes in pressure, you can test that with a balloon. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you've learned some stuff today, and I hope this is informative to you. Stay weather aware and have multiple ways of getting weather alerts through the day today and tomorrow. Very active pattern. Stay tuned here. We'll cover it every day. You can follow me on X at Real Cold Rain. Anyway, have a nice Sunday, folks. Have a blessed afternoon, and we'll see you again soon.